Hello everyone, my name is Chelsea and welcome back to my channel. For today's video, I have my end of the year book unhaul. So I try to do an unhaul about 2 times a year. I did do one earlier this year that was a lot of books that I did not necessarily like enough to keep from my 2020 reading, but the book unhaul this time is more about books that I don't think I'm actually going to read anymore. And I'm trying to purge things off of my TBR. And so I actually have 62 books here that I'm planning on getting rid of. We do have some categories for this, and we are going to start with the ones that I have read before, but again, did not like enough that I want to keep, and then we will go into the ones that I just don't think I'm going to read. Now, like I did the last couple times I've done book unhauls, I do actually have a Depop store that I will link down below, and all of these books are going to go up there the same time this video goes live, and I will be having a sale of 15% off the price that I would normally list these for the next month. I do have some books that are already on there. They will have a sale listed on there because you have to have your items on Depop for I think at least 10 days or something like that before you're technically allowed to list it as being on sale. So all of the books that I'm talking about today that will be listed on there won't specify a sale on the actual item. However, they still will be sale priced for the next month. This video here should be going up on Thursday, October 21st. And because I want you guys to have an actual full month of this, I'm going to list them as on sale through Sunday, November 21st. So I think that's all the housekeeping I have for this currently, so let's jump in. Like I said, we are going to start with books that I have read before, but I did not like enough to keep on my shelves. The first 5 books that I have here are the first 5 volumes in Anonymous Noise by Ryoko Fukuyama. This set of 5 books here, I did read the first 3 of them for the 30 and 30 manga challenge in September, but I just did not really feel connected to the characters, and this is a longer series, something like between 18 and 20 something books, and I just didn't really see myself continuing with this series for that long because of the fact that I didn't really get into the first 3 of them. So like I said, I actually have the first 5 here, but I did read the first 3, did not like it enough to continue, so getting rid of those. The only other manga that I have here right now is going to be Karneval Volume 1 by Toya Mikanagi. This is the same sort of thing. I read it during the 30 and 30 manga challenge, but I did not really get connected to the characters. This one, I feel like the translation was a little bit hard to understand. I was curious about what actually was going on, the plot of this one, because it has some monster elements and mystery elements and almost like amnesia elements in our main character, and I wanted to know what was going on, but again, it's a very, very long series. This is the omnibus edition, so I think it had at least 2 volumes in it, but I don't want to continue with the series when I'm really just not feeling the way it was told. So that was all the manga, but we are now going to move into the books that have the same reasons why I'm getting rid of it. The first 3 that I have here are the first 3 books in the Weather Warden saga by Rachel Kane. I read the first book, Ill Wind, actually years ago. I think one of the first years I had my booktube channel, so this was probably in 2019 potentially is what I'm gonna say it was, and I do like other Rachel Kane books a lot, but this one specifically has really, really, really long chapters. I think there's only 5 chapters in this whole book, and then I know book 2 has 3 total chapters in the whole book. I think there's 10 in book 3 because I definitely looked, but this was one of those things where the chapters definitely turned me off of this, but also the world building and stuff, it was just really, really slow to start. I think I gave this book 3 stars, and I kept putting off the other 2 books in the series, and it got to the point where I think it was the last time I did an unhaul, I was like, if I do not pick up Heatstroke, which is the second book in the series, by the time I'm supposed to do another unhaul, I'm just gonna get rid of it. So we have book 1, Ill Wind, book 2, Heatstroke, and book 3, Chill Factor. These are adult, paranormal, fantasy type of stuff, but I just don't necessarily think it's my thing. Then we have A Study in Honor by Claire Odell. This one I DNF'd earlier this year. I tried to get through it, but this is a reimagining of Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, set in the future where there is some civil war going on again in the United States, and my biggest issue with this one was the characterizations of the characters. They did not even feel remotely close to Sherlock Holmes and Dr. Watson, and this was written by a white author who decided to touch quite a bit upon being black in, I think it was DC or something like that. It was a lot where I was like, I don't think you have the personal experience, and because you're trying to speak so much about a personal experience, it really rubbed me the wrong way, and so that just pushed it over the edge when I was already not enjoying the characters. Next, I have the first two books in the, I think it's the Last True Vampire series. This is book 1, The Last True Vampire, and this is book 2, The Warrior Vampire by Kate Baxter. I read this one, I think, earlier this year in February and was very iffy about it. These are paranormal romances with vampires, and this first book had a lot of abuse for our female main character. It also had the male hero, like main character, love interest thing being very aggressive and possessive and talking about the female a lot. I did not like that. And then we also had a surprise pregnancy thing, and I did not think it worked very well. I was curious about this one because it's supposed to follow a character I liked a little bit better, but I gave myself the same ultimatum. If I did not pick up book 2 by the time I was going to do this unhaul, I was going to get rid of it. So we are. The next one I have here is We Were Restless Things by Cole Nagamatsu. This is one that I read last year. I gave 3 stars because I was very conflicted about it. I think I actually read it as an arc, and there was a lot of things that did not live up to the summary, like what I expected from this book. There were some things that were okay, but overall it was sort of forgettable, and so I wanted to reread it because I had actually pre-ordered this and it came in after I had read the arc, and I was like, well, maybe it'll be better as a physical copy. I haven't picked it up. It's a gorgeous, gorgeous book, which is part of the reason I pre-ordered it, but I just don't think I'm ever actually going to pick this up and reread it. So because I technically already have read it and didn't really know full thoughts on it, that's why we're getting rid of it. The next one I have here is To Sleep in a Sea of Stars by Christopher Paolini. This is my least favorite book so far of 2021. I really did not like this one. It is way too big, way too overcomplicated with the science aspect, and I just did not feel any connection to any characters. It felt very repetitive, and yeah, I had a lot of things I did not like about this one. I read it as a buddy read, and both of us were very disappointed in this. I do feel like the books that I have read before by Christopher Paolini in the YA fantasy realm were better than this adult sci-fi. Then I also have House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski. I also really did not like this one. Again, super, super thick, very floppy and everything. This is just, again, not my thing. I sort of understand why people like this format-wise. Like, the actual amount of brain power and planning that had to go in this for the author to make the experience what it is amazing. However, characters and character choices and the way that they did certain things in here, I could not stand. Like, the person in the footnotes was one of the worst parts about it, and then I felt the actual like house aspect could have been done better. Some of it was just very overly like a textbook almost. Like, it was so overdone in my opinion. It was just something that it took forever to get through, and so I applaud the actual creativity for it, but I will never try to read this again. Definitely not my thing. And then we also have Ferals. The first book is actually this one, which is just Ferals, and then the second one is Ferals, The Swarm Descends by Justin Gray. So again, these ones, I read the first one last year. I think I gave it 3 stars. It might have been closer to a 2.5. They are very simplistic for middle grades. They are middle grades, but the characters, the plot, the writing style felt much younger than what I was expecting from a middle grade. And then it was also very dark. We have animal death, especially in the first one, that I was just like, if I was in the middle grade age range, I would not like the writing and how the story is told to me, but I also would not like that we are killing animals. That's just one of those things. But I was curious about the second book, gave myself that ultimatum that if I did not pick it up by this video, we're getting rid of it. That is what this is. The next one I have here is The Hunt and The Prey. These are by Andrew Fukuda. These ones I actually feel slightly different about than the ones behind me. I read The Hunt a few years ago and I gave it 4 stars. I actually really enjoyed it. However, I never picked up The Prey. I don't know if I ever will pick up The Prey, and I don't think this is necessarily my book anymore, so even though I actually really did enjoy the first book in this series, I would need to reread that first book in order to enjoy the second, and I just don't think that is going to happen. So, again, I gave myself the ultimatum. We're here now. I never picked it up. I don't think I'm going to pick it up. So, yeah. And then the last ones of the ones I have read before, don't get mad prematurely, but I have Get a Life, Chloe Brown, and Take a Hint, Danny Brown, both by Talia Hibbert. These are my paperback copies. I have brand new, spankin', gorgeous editions from Illumicrate of all 3 books in the series. They're hardcover. They have like an author's note that has been printed on the book. They also have sprayed edges. I absolutely love this one, 5 out of 5 stars. I have not read this yet, but I had to buy those editions. I do not need 2 versions of these books on my shelves, so that's why we're getting rid of the paperback ones. But don't worry, I do love this series. I definitely want to continue with the books. I'm not like getting rid of them completely. The next set of books that I have here are ones that I did a try a chapter video tag on. I did just post that on Tuesday. I will leave it linked down below. But so basically I had a stack of books that I was thinking maybe I will read them. Maybe I won't read them. I have a lot of things here that I was like, I know for sure I will never get to. We're getting rid of it. But these were my maybes. So I decided to do a try a chapter tag, and most of the books failed. So these are the ones that I tried a chapter on and decided I did not want. So the first one I have here is Genuine Fraud by E. Lockhart. Yeah, I read a couple chapters. I just don't think it's for me. Same with The Way to Game the Walk of Shame by Jen P. Wen. Again, I just don't think the concept of this is for me anymore. I actually had a friend that told me, I don't think you're gonna like this anymore, and they were completely right. I think me being 31 years old and them being in high school and the whole plot of this one being trying to change the bad boy, I just don't think I'm into that kind of stuff. I also have Made for You by Melissa Marr. This one, again, I just really did not get into. The mystery didn't start quick enough for me, and there was a point of view character I did not like. Next, I have Dreamfall and Never Wake by Amy Plum. I started trying to read Dreamfall, and this is the same sort of thing as the previous book. There were multiple points of view characters. I think there was at least 2 in this one, but one of the point of view characters I did not care about at all, and it definitely took me out of the story. And because I was doing try a chapter, I was like, I don't think I'm gonna finish this, but this is a duology, I'm pretty sure, so this is the whole thing. Next, I have Thornjack, Briar Queen, and Nettle King. These are all by Catherine Harbour. I tried a chapter of Thornjack and I did not like the writing style of it. Also, these books are quite wide, and so the formatting of the page made it hard for me to read. I would have preferred a bigger text so it wasn't going as long. That's just a me thing, but putting that together with the way the prose was, I was not really into it. And then I also have And I Darken by Kirsten White. This one, somebody else really did enjoy and thought I might like it. However, I just don't think, again, the characterization at the beginning of the book is something I want. I think the characters are supposed to be unlikable, but because that was all I had to really decide if I wanted to read the book or not, I think I'm just gonna put this one down. Next, we have some book box books. The first 2 actually are also ones that I tried in the try a chapter tag, but they're book box books as well, and I did not decide to keep them. The first one here is There Will Come a Darkness by Katie Rose Poole. This one, again, I think the characters are supposed to be unlikable, but I did not like what I read at the very beginning of this book. It is supposed to be about a prophecy about these like teens, and one of them is either going to like save the world or doom it, and because of that, morally great characters, but the beginning didn't really grab me in, and so yeah. Next, I have The Beckoning Shadow by Catherine Blair. This one I think is a shelf love crate book. I don't think I mentioned, but I'm pretty sure There Will Come a Darkness is a shelf love crate book as well. But this one, again, I tried a chapter of, I think I tried a couple chapters of, and I just didn't really like the way it started. I think that's very similar with try a chapter tags. Like, you either need to be hooked right away or you're not. This has a fighting element, and they mentioned that a little bit more at the beginning. I think our main character is also supposed to do something with like people's fears, but I didn't get that far, and yeah. The next one I have here is an Owl Crate book that was very recent actually, and that is Sisters of the Snake by Serena and Sasha Nanua. I did not know about this book before I received it in a box. I don't necessarily care about the plot. It just did not grab me, and because it was a book that I had never planned on reading for myself in the first place, now that I'm trying to purge books from my TBR, I think we're just going to get rid of it. I also have Incendiary by Zoraida Cordova. Again, this is a YA fantasy that I just don't think was necessarily on my radar before I received it in, I believe, an Owl Crate box. And reading over the summary, I just don't think it's something that I'm going to enjoy. I also have The Kingdom of Back by Marie Lu, another Owl Crate one. This is one that I was originally interested in. This has to do with like a musical kingdom. I think it's the sister of Mozart, but it is a YA fantasy. It is also a YA historical fiction, and just reading over the summary again, nothing is grabbing my attention. So even though this is a gorgeous book, silver edges, I just don't think I'm ever going to get to it. I also have Warrior of the Wild by Trisha Levenseller. I think this one was a Shelf Love Crate one, but this I got forever ago. I know a lot of people liked it. It is quite short, but yeah, I don't know. Vikings and stuff. It sounds semi-interesting, but I haven't picked it up in the years that I've had it, and I don't know if I'm going to. Then I have The Merciful Crow by Margaret Owen. I don't remember which box this came in, but since it has a signed book plate in it instead of being actually signed, I'm pretty sure it's Shelf Love Crate. Again, YA fantasy. I'm very hit or miss with YA fantasy right now. I've been reading a ton more adult books, especially this year and last year, so I feel like a lot of the books that I have in the stacks right now are actually YA fantasy books that I picked up before 2020, because during 2020 that's when I started really reading adult books. So yeah, I probably wanted to read some of these beforehand, but I don't anymore, and this is actually one that I had never heard of before it came in the book box, so it was not even on my radar. Next, I have Ash Lords by Scott Reintgen. Again, I think this is a Shelf Love Crate one. This has something to do with like fantasy horses. I actually don't know. It was another one that I had never heard of before we received it, and I actually have been very iffy about this one from the start. So yeah. Then I have Give the Dark My Love by Beth Revis. Again, Shelf Love Crate book that I wasn't really too sure I wanted to read in the first place. This is supposed to be a darker version of something, and I think it's the first book in either a duology or a trilogy, but I haven't picked it up in years, and I don't know if I'm going to. And then we also have Four Dead Queens by Astrid Schulte. Again, a YA fantasy, and this is just one of those ones that I don't think is for me. Okay, still moving on, but we are done with the book box books. The rest of the books here that I have are just books that I don't think I'm ever going to actually pick up. Some of them have been on my TBR for years, and I just have never picked it up. So the first one I have here is Contagion by Erin Bowman. I do think this is a YA sci-fi, and I do love sci-fi, but I haven't been as interested in the summary of this one when I have to refresh my mind of what it is, because I keep forgetting what this book is about. And so yeah, I have considered getting rid of it, I think for the last 2 unhauls, so I think it's time. Then I also have Struck by Lightning by Chris Colfer. I watched the movie of this one and I did actually enjoy it, but it has again been years. And this is a pretty short YA contemporary type of story. And again, I just don't think I'm necessarily the audience for it. And since I've watched the movie, I don't know if I want to read the book. Just that kind of thing. Then I have The Cure for the Common Universe by Christian McKay Heidecker. I have had this on multiple TBRs, and every single time I just don't read it. This is supposed to be about a boy who I think wants to go on a date but ends up going into video game rehab. And while I do think that is an interesting sort of concept, it has not grabbed my attention enough to actually read it the multiple times it has been on a TBR, and so yeah, I think it is time to get rid of this one. I also have The Adventures of Penelope Hawk by J.V. Gray. This is an independently published, self-published middle grade. I read a graphic novel by this author last year, which I really did not like, and I know this is a prose middle grade novel, whereas that one was a graphic novel, but it did not inspire any confidence in me, and so this was one of the ones that I actually did put as an ultimatum: read it by this time or don't, and I didn't. Then I have A Darkly Beating Heart by Lindsay Smith. I know nothing about this book anymore. I probably did when I bought it, but the cover is not doing anything for me. I really do not know anything about this, so yeah. I also have 4321 by Courtney Stevens. This one I think is about a bombing, and I'm just not really into that. Like, I'm good. Next, I have Winger and Standoff by Andrew Smith. This is again because I'm a 31-year-old woman, and while I do still like YA books, I'm very much more into the adult stuff, and it's about a boy going to like a rich kid's high school. I just don't think I'm really going to be able to relate like at all, and so I don't think this is something for me right now. Then I have Blanca y Roja by Anna Marie McLemore. This one has been having very mixed reviews out of like all the Anna Marie McLemore books that I have seen. I have, I think, one other one on my TBR shelves that I still really do want to read, but this one does not have the best reviews. It is supposed to be a take on a fairy tale, but that is all I know. And actually, I think this was a book box book as well. Yeah, signed book plate. Then I have Nixia by Scott Rankin. Yeah, the only reason I kept this is because I was hoping to also read it with Ashlords if I ever got around to it. This is a YA sci-fi instead of the Ashlords being a fantasy, but again, I just don't think it's necessarily something I want to read anymore. I also have 29 Dates by Melissa de la Cruz. This is a YA contemporary about a girl who I think has to move from South Korea to the States in order to go on dates that her parents are making her go on, and yeah. Oh goodness. Okay, we're on the last stack. We're getting there. The next one I have here is Zeros by Scott Westerfeld. This is the first book in I think a trilogy about superheroes or anti-heroes or something like that. I used to say that I really liked Scott Westerfeld as an author. But the more that I've thought about it, the older I have gotten, I have slowly gotten rid of basically all the books that he has written that I have read, because the only one that I really remember liking is Uglies. And I read that back when I was a freshman or sophomore in high school, and the rest of that series I did not like. Like the first book I gave 5 stars, I think book 2 I gave 3 stars, and I absolutely hated how that book series ended. So yeah, I've read quite a few things by Scott Westerfeld, but I just don't necessarily think he's the author for me. And so yeah. The next one I have here, you can barely see. It is Lucky Few by Catherine Ormsby. This is another one that I've been trying to have on TBRs, and I just don't ever pick it up when it is on a TBR. This is a YA contemporary about people that want to like fake their death without dying for some reason, and it sounded intriguing before. However, I have now actually had family members pass away. My grandmother passed away in 2019, and ever since then, just reading about death in certain ways in books makes it a little harder for me. Not necessarily a trigger, but things that if I want a fun read, I don't necessarily want to think about that kind of stuff. So I just don't think I'm ever actually going to pick this up. Next, I have Frankly in Love by David Yoon. This is a gorgeous, gorgeous edition. It's a Barnes & Noble edition. But again, YA contemporary romance, I think, but I'm just not interested anymore. I should have read this like as soon as I picked it up. It got a lot of hype at that point, and I have never heard anything else about it again. Then I have Gemini by Sonia Mukherjee. Again, I know nothing about this book. I cannot keep the summary in my head whatsoever. I'm not the best about keeping summaries in my head. Like, I sometimes do forget about what books are about when I read them, but I usually have some hint or indication as to what the genre is, or like what I think I know what the book is. I don't know. I don't really hear many people talking about this either. I pretty much bought it because of the gorgeous cover. Maybe also because of the summary, but like I don't remember the summary at all. I also have The Warded Man by Peter V. Brett. This was a TBR bucket pick. My bucket is over there somewhere. I actually don't think you can see it right now. For earlier this year that I did not read. And just based on the summary, I picked this up years ago, and I don't know if I want to read it anymore. I also had people telling me that this is the best book out of the entire series, and so while this book might be worth it, the whole series is not. The next one I have here is Dear Evan Hansen. This is by Val Emick with Stephen Levinson, Benj Pasek, and Justin Paul, creators of the hit show. I know I'm not alone when I thought Dear Evan Hansen was about an LGBTQ boy. Apparently it's not. I bought this back when this book came out because I had a friend who really loved the soundtrack to the Broadway show Dear Evan Hansen. They have since made a movie for it, and we are coming to realize that what we thought the summary was is not what the summary is, and I am no longer interested at all. I know this is my bad. I should have looked it up, but yeah. I also have The Darkest Corners by Kara Thomas. This is some sort of YA thriller. I've had it for years, seriously years. I don't know what it's about, and I just don't think I'm ever going to pick it up because I don't know what it's about. I also have Occultic 9 Book 1 and 2 by Chie Shimada. This is a light novel, and I actually am semi still interested in these, but I don't actually read light novels all that often. If ever, have I ever read a light novel? I don't know. So, okay, if somebody thinks I should read these, you might be able to convince me, but I don't know about those. I also have Magician's Impossible by Brad Abraham. This is one that I actually bought, I think last year or maybe the year before. I don't remember anything about it anymore. It is adult fantasy, but when I was reading the summary, trying to figure out what I wanted to read, this one was just not capturing my attention. So yeah. Moving into nonfiction, I have You're Never Weird on the Internet Almost by Felicia Day. The only nonfiction I really read are memoirs and autobiographies. This is just one that I thought I wanted to read back when I picked it up. Again, it's been a few years, and I don't think I actually want to read it. And then finally, the last book we have here is Vincent and Theo by Deborah Heligman. This is another technically nonfiction about Vincent van Gogh and his brother Theo. I think it's having to do with like the letters they sent each other. However, I think it's supposed to read a little bit more like a fiction, even though it is nonfiction. I love Van Gogh. Like the art style, everything is freaking amazing. I absolutely love it, but I have had this for a few years now. I don't think I'm ever gonna get to it, and I think it's because nonfiction, 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 that is all I hear in my head, and yeah. So that is it. Hopefully this video wasn't too long, but this is 62 books that I am getting rid of. Like I said, I will list them on Depop at a reduced price for the next month, just because I want to get them off my shelves, and if I can get some money back to then buy more books. I mean, that is what we're gonna do, right? It is a big ol' cycle. Thank you for watching this video. Again, if you think I should read any of these, let me know. There's only a few you can probably change my mind about, but it's always possible. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up to let me know. Subscribe to this channel if you would like to see more videos. I do have videos up Tuesdays and Thursdays, so I will see you then. Bye!